Hello, good evening. Welcome to Army Reenlistment's live stream. This week, we have myself, Sergeant First Class Block, who is going to be the host tonight. I'm just talking real quick. And then we have Sergeant Waterbury. She's going to hide in the background. We're just going to mess off and play PlayStation while we have a great conversation. Sergeant Block, and we have some great guests on tonight. Tonight, we're going to focus on being outside of your comfort zone, right? So a lot of people, they want to get ahead in their career, but they don't want to do things to take that step in their MOSs to do that. Tonight, we're gonna spotlight some career counselors who have stepped outside of their comfort zone, and they competed for stuff such as the Career Counselor of the Year Board, the Secretary of the Army Career Counselor of the Year Board, and they'll talk about that. But don't think about it just as being about career counselors. Think about it also as thinking outside the box. Maybe NCO of the Year, maybe Drill Sergeant of the Year, stuff like that. All right. So make sure you're doing these competitions. So without further ado, myself and Sergeant Waterbury, we're gonna fall back after we bring in this year's Secretary of the Army, DA FY21 Career Counselors of the Year for the RC and the active component. All right. So first we have, for the RC, we have Sergeant First Class Morgan Smith. And then for the active component, we have Sergeant First Class Jackie Lord. And Sergeant Block, I give it off to you. Myself and Sergeant Waterbury is going to be hanging out in the background.
Thanks, Tim. Hey, ladies. Welcome to our show. First, Sergeant Lord, I want to just touch base with you. Give us a little background about where you're coming from, what command you're with, and what was your reasoning for wanting to compete in this competition this year?
I'm Sergeant Lord. I am I'm out of the Army Medical Command, out of Joint Base Lewis McChord. I'm in Madigan Army Medical Center. For me, it was really just, like Sergeant Donnie, he said, stepping out of your comfort zone. I think the Career Counselor of the Year Board is definitely a good way to improve yourself. I competed last year as well. I definitely learned a lot about being a career counselor. But it was really that, just wanting to improve myself, wanting to set an example. And I mean, it became a goal. So just trying to accomplish that.
Awesome. Good to hear. Sergeant Morgan Smith, same for you. Where are you coming from? Who's your command? And what was your reasoning for wanting to compete in this year's competition?
I'm Sergeant First Class Smith. I'm a Reserve Component Career Counselor for the 1st Infantry Division out of Fort Riley. I've been in the National Guard for 15 years, and I decided to compete this year for Career Counselor of the Year, just like Sergeant Lord said, to step out of your comfort zone, to really learn a lot about career counseling and who I am as an NCO and really challenge myself.
Awesome. Good stuff. So a little background for all those who are watching. Career Counselor of the Year is a competition that we have for our career counselors, just like similar to Drill Sergeant, NCO of the Year, Soldier of the Year, things of those natures, those boards that push you ahead of your peers and put you over the top. Whether you win or lose, it's an experience that you can get. This one is specified for career counselors, similar as those other ones. So I know since you guys your board just completed a few weeks ago, correct? You guys just won, right? So I know this year was different because of COVID. So normally what we do is we'll have numerous events. You'll go out to your commands. At the DA level, there'll be a PT test, a written exam, a board performance, things like that. But this year, you guys had to do it differently. So, Sergeant Lord, can you explain a little bit how you guys had to do it this year because of COVID restrictions?
This year, everything was done virtually. So the board was actually done through MS Teams. The written test was done through, it was online, and then it was proctored through Teams. So we had Teams on so they could watch us taking it. And then they also did a special event this year where they actually looked at some of the stuff that we did as career counselors as far as our IPERMs, scans, our bonus accuracy, stuff like that. So it was a lot different this year, just because again everything was virtual, and remote. So it was just a lot different because of what was going on.
Awesome. Sergeant Smith, what are some of the qualifications for RC? And then Sergeant Laura, I'm going to ask you the same question. For RC, are there any differences? What are your qualifications to get to this level? Like, what are the stepping stones that you have to go through to get to the Secretary of the Army level?
The qualifications are the same for the RC as it is for the AC. So we had to compete through our division, through our corps, and then our command before getting to the Secretary of the Army level. A little bit what was different about this year was, I don't think Sergeant Lord touched on it, was our board was a double blind board. So our board members couldn't see us and we couldn't see them. They didn't get any information about us prior to, so it was a completely different experience than anybody's really had.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that's completely different. So they did they have like DA photo or no pictures of you guys at all?
None at all, no bio. When we reported to the board, we had to report as a number. We couldn't talk about anything that had to do with any identifying information about us. So we were only there to answer their questions. So it was a big challenge to still get your personality across, but then still be kind of in the shadows.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's different. So you had to go, what, 3 levels? You had to go through 3 different boards to get to Secretary of the Army, or the 3rd board was Secretary of the Army?
I went through 3 boards prior.
3 boards before. Okay, Sergeant Lord, how many boards did you have to go through? Because I know some commands, and the reason why I'm asking this, some commands are direct reporting units, so like in FORSCOM, they'll just go to the FORSCOM board before they go to HQDA. So how many boards did you have to go through, Sergeant Lord, before you made it to the Secretary of the Army?
So for me, it is a little different. How it works is we have for Army Medical Command, we're not a traditional unit, so we have regions, and then we fall into MedCom. So I had a region board that I had to go to for Regional Health Command Pacific, and then the MedCom board, and then the Department of the Army board.
Okay, all right. So about the same amount, just different avenues. So that's sorry, I was reading something real quick, so I apologize. So that's good to know. Sergeant Smith, overall, being this was this your first time competing? This was your first year?
It was my first year competing, yep.
So how did you feel with it? How did your overall perception of the board, seeing that you had COVID restrictions, double blind, you didn't really know, but how did you feel about doing it?
Yeah, so what I did prior to the board was I reached out to a bunch of mentors of mine, previous winners, both from the RC and the regular Army, so I could get their perspectives. And then that kind of eased things. So when we started going through the actual HQDA level, that was a way different than anybody else's experience. I was able to be a little bit more calm about it because I had already been mentored leading up to that point.
Oh, good. And Sergeant Lord, I know you said you competed twice. You competed last year. So last year was in person, correct?
Yes, last year was in person. It was done the way it was the previous years. So actually went to the Pentagon and we competed there.
So given those 2 experiences, how did you like this year versus last year, or did you like last year better versus this year?
I mean, I think everyone misses traveling, misses getting together with people. I think last year was definitely a good opportunity, not just to compete, but actually go to the Pentagon. We went to the Capitol building to network and actually meet with other career counselors. So I think that was a very good experience. Here it was, we're separated. Everything was done through teams. I do think that the way the board was done was through virtually this year was good for the environment that we're in, but obviously it would have been better if we could have all met in DC.
Yeah, for sure. So another question, this goes for both of you. So Joel is asking a question. What are some of the key takeaways from the virtual board as opposed to the in-person board? And do you feel the experience was the same as in-person? So Sergeant Smith, I love your feedback, and I want to get your perspective too. Just seeing that, but Sergeant Lord, you have the experience of both. So I'm going to have you answer the question first, and then Sergeant Smith, I just want to see your perspective on the overall board. So Sergeant Lord, what's your take on it? Key takeaway.
I think that the like Sergeant Smith had mentioned, the double blind board was very interesting. I think it was a very good way that they did that. So that was something that I thought was very well done. What was the rest of the question? I'm sorry.
It was. What was the question? Do you feel that the experience was the same as in person?
I mean, I wouldn't say that it's the same as in person. I think that they both had their challenges. Definitely, it was just two very different experiences. But as far as overall preparing for the board and the challenging aspects of it, as far as being evaluated, I think the concepts were both the same.
Okay. And Sergeant Smith, your key takeaway, whether it be for preparation for the board or just doing it virtually, what's your key takeaway?
Yeah, so I think it was neat to do the double blind just because of the diversity aspect that's been one of the key topics for the Army, removing photos to just kind of see that board process play out. But as Sergeant Lord said, it's really important during these competitions to network with your peers. So that experience and that takeaway from it was lost because of the COVID restrictions. The double blind board, I think, was wonderful. However, the networking, I think we're both missing that a little bit, because when you're around different people with different experiences, you can learn so much.
Yeah, for sure. So another quick question, what are the tools for preparing for any board, but specifically this board? What tools did you all use, in order to get ready for the many boards that you went through? Did anything deviate between boards, or did you just stick with the same studying materials? So Sergeant Smith, what was yours?
So when I first started studying, my first board was back in October. So preparing for that board, I was a little bit more specific about regulatory guidance. And then as I moved forward in the process, I then was able to expand and start studying the references to reference in those regulations. I was able to expand a little bit more. I also reached out to previous competitors and different people within the command team for any study material, any quizzes, and things like that.
Good. And Sergeant Lord, how about you?
Mine is very similar. References and guidances, policies, and processes that we use as career counselors. From my experience last year, I think a lot of the biggest takeaway for me was situational based questions. So I definitely talked to a lot of leaders and peers about different situations that might come up, and really, I guess, kind of figured out where I kind of stood on those situations. So I guess a lot of self-reflecting and just discussing those different things. And then, like Sergeant Smith said, I also had the written test. Also had a bunch of practice written tests that I got from different people. So those helped as well.
Oh, awesome. And then one last question that everybody is dying to know. How does it feel to be this year's winners? And did you get any cool prizes? Sergeant Smith, how does it feel?
Honestly, it's a completely humbling, honorable experience. We're still waiting on our prizes in the mail because of COVID. So, but I've had a ton of people that I never would have had access to reach out to me, congratulate me, and then also ask me questions and even offer to be mentors. So one of the biggest takeaways for me is to always challenge myself. And so to have myself introduced to people that I never would have been able to talk to because they're not in my command, or they're across the world. I've been able to actually expand my mentors.
All right. Sergeant Lord, how about you?
I think for me, the biggest thing is just to see more people excited about the Army Retention Program that I work with, just because, you know, when I win, it's not just about me, it's about the organization that I work for and all that stuff. So just to see them get more excited and more involved. And I think that's probably the best out of all of this that I've seen. And like Sergeant Smith said, we're still waiting on our prizes. So
what are the prizes? Can you share them, or do you have to keep them a secret? Either one.
We both got an MSM and then the Sergeant Major Drawing Pionk Retention Excellence Medal. So we're both waiting on those.
Awesome. And then I guess we did have one other question. Did you reach out to any previous year's winners for any advice on this board in preparing for it? Sergeant Lord?
I did. There was Sergeant Wilder. She helped me a lot. So I had reached out to her, not just this year, but last year, because she had one for MedCom 2 years ago.
Okay. And Sergeant Smith?
I reached out to anybody that would respond to me. So like Sergeant Lord said, one of the biggest preparations for the HQDA level was learning those situational based questions and doing self-reflection. And so when able to really learn about yourself and how you would answer some of those questions, it's best to facilitate discussions with other people. So I reached out to honestly anybody that would respond.
All right. And it looks like, do you feel that Career Counselor of the Year should be mandatory for all career counselors? Sergeant Lord.
I think that's kind of a touchy question. I think that every career counselor should push themselves to go. Even just because I do think from this year and last year, I think it really helped me grow, not only as a career counselor, but as a leader. So I don't think it hurts anybody to want to better themselves and want to learn more about what we do. And like I said, to challenge yourself as a leader. I don't think we should have to force people to go, I guess is how I'd answer that.
Yeah. And how about you, Sergeant Smith?
I agree. I don't think it should be mandatory. Once we start making things mandatory, it loses its luster. But I feel like every NCO should be striving to become their best. And this is one of those ways to truly challenge yourself to be the best.
Yeah. Well, thank you both so much for coming on. You guys are getting some shout outs. I appreciate your time. But I'll let you guys go. We got a couple special guests coming up. So thank you again. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to put out? Sergeant Smith? Sergeant Lord?
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. All right. And next up, we have Sergeant Major. Oh, Master Sergeant Donahue. Do you got something?
Oh, I don't know what just happened. I was playing PlayStation. Somebody did this. Let me get up out of here. You have a special guest, though.
I do. Sergeant Major Toby Whitney. He's the 82nd Airborne Division Command Career Counselor. Welcome, Sergeant Major Whitney. Rumor has it that you are a former Career Counselor of the Year. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we're going to go into a few questions, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Again, Sergeant Major Toby Whitney. I'm the Command Career Counselor for the 82nd Airborne Division, and coming up on 2 years here. Before that, I served in a variety of different locations. Some of my best jobs were working in the BCT and 3rd Brigade, 82nd Airborne Division, and then I went to become an instructor, and then from there I became the developer for the Career Counselor course. Went to Korea. I was in 1st Signal Brigade over there. From there, I went to 1st Special Forces Group at Joint Base Lewis McChord, made my way to the Pentagon as the Retention Operations NCO, went to the Sergeant Major Academy, and here I am back where it all started in the 82nd Airborne Division.
Cool. So you know the history behind the Career Counselor of the Year competition. So can you give us a little reasoning why do we even do this? Why do career counselors go through this every year?
Well, I think some of it is self-induced punishment for each career counselor. Everybody has their own reason to go through it, but back in the 70s, they put it in the regulation that the Army was required to have a competition every year for the Secretary of the Army Career Counselor of the Year. And so for the past 40 years or so, we've been having this competition. And there were a couple times where we didn't have winners because of Desert Storm or whatever, but for the most part, it's been held annually ever since. And it's designed to spotlight or highlight the career counselors who go above and beyond. They work their butt off, study, prepare themselves, and then are recognized as being the top career counselor in the field for that year.
Awesome. Now, so you don't have to say, but I know it was a couple years ago that you won the Career Counselor of the Year. So how did it help you in your career? Do you feel that it did help you? What are some thoughts on that?
Well, I won the Career Counselor of the Year competition in 2011. So yeah, it's been a decade. And I do need to say congratulations to Sergeant First Class Smith and Sergeant First Class Lord on joining this club. And the check is in the mail. You know, eventually you'll get one. But it helped me a lot. For me, it's a little different because I'm not sure if being an instructor and going out to all the installations in the Army to teach mobile training is what gave me a little bit of a leg up, or the Career Counselor of the Year. But it definitely opened doors because it puts your name out there and people recognize you, and you get contacted by a lot of different people with questions or comments or sergeants majors who say, hey, are you interested when you leave the schoolhouse or to go become the ops? Or so it opens a lot of doors. But I will tell you that for me, and the one of the reasons why I push my career counselors to compete in this board is I don't care if you win or if you come in second place, fifth place, I don't care. If you put in the time and energy to study for this board, I assure you, you're going to realize there are things that you had no idea existed about the profession that you are in. Every single time I open the regulation, I'd find something and I'd be like, how long has that been in there? It's probably been in there for a decade, but I had no idea that was in there because I don't deal with it every day. So you broaden your mind, and it doesn't matter what place you come in. Obviously, everybody wants to win. Winning matters. But the more you get into the regulation, the better you are at the job that you are supposed to be doing. And that's as a battalion career counselor or a senior career counselor. It doesn't matter. Do it.
Yeah. We do have one question from Woody Woodside. He said, how has the Career Counselor of the Year board changed since you went?
Well, I have 2 points of reference. The year that I went to the board in 2011, and then when I was the operations NCO at headquarters DA, I was the recorder for the board. And I will tell you that for the most part, it was very similar. I think the written test, I believe now, is more difficult. I think that when I went to the Career Counselor of the Year board in 2011, the written test was a little more generic. Honestly, we here's a packet. You need to process somebody's eligibility for retention. Those simple tasks that you do at a battalion level. And I 100% believe that at my level, at the division level, those are very valuable tests, and those are going to set you apart and set you up for success. But as you move up, when you get to Force Com or you get to TRADOC or whatever your command is, or when you go to headquarters DA, by then you shouldn't be tested on, in my opinion, you shouldn't be tested on those things. Now at those levels, how do you think strategically? Do you see the bigger picture? Because what works for me at the division doesn't necessarily work at USER or USERAC. So those questions up there are a lot more challenging because you have to think bigger than where you work.
Yeah, that's definitely true. We got another question from Joel. What is some advice you give young counselors striving to follow in your footsteps, and why the Oklahoma Sooners and not Arkansas Razorbacks?
Well, the easiest one is the Oklahoma Sooners. I grew up back a while ago, right? And I love the Oklahoma Sooners. and I wanted to play football for Oklahoma. Unfortunately, I wasn't good enough to play for Oklahoma, but that's where I ended up going to college and getting my degree from. So I'll be a Sooner for life. Sooner born, sooner bred, right? So that's my school. But I would say my advice to young counselors is this: no matter what you're doing, you have to do it well. And you have to step out of your comfort zone. I don't know how many times I was perfectly comfortable being in 3rd Brigade of the 82nd Airborne Division. I had no idea that there was a larger world out there of career counselors. I didn't even know all the career counselors on Fort Bragg. I was just content with doing my job and my little team. Somebody pushed me to put in to be an instructor. Somebody pushed me to put in for the career counselor competition. So once I stepped out of that comfort zone, I realized there is this whole big world out there that is career counselor related, that's retention related. And from there, I couldn't get enough knowledge. I just wanted to keep going. So all I can tell you is you have to step out of your comfort zone. And it may not be something that an assignment might come up that you're like, well, I have no desire to do that. But that's what you have to do. You have to step up, go get the experience from it, make the best of it, and take that knowledge with you, good or bad, to your next place.
For sure. One last question, Sergeant Major, that I had. Seeing that you've worked at HQDA level as a senior operations and you helped run this board at that level, and now being a command career counselor and having your own board, how has that changed your perspective, or how does it feel to be on both sides? Well, kind of, you've been on all three of the sides. You've been a competitor, you've assisted in running, facilitating the board, and now you have your own board, you host it. So those three perspectives, how has it changed, if your perspective has changed regarding this board?
Well, I think for me, the perspective has changed, that I put a lot more emphasis on two different things. One is your written test, right? I think that a written test very much needs to go in depth, and it should not be easy. If I get somebody who gets only half the questions right, I want to see what their breadth of knowledge is in our profession. I want to pull out a chapter that they probably didn't even read and ask them a question out of the regulation on it, because I want to see who really studied for the board. So that's going to tell me your technical expertise in the field. And then when you get on the board, I want to ask questions that are going to prompt you to think. I don't want to know, hey, what are the 5 reenlistment options? That could be on the written test. To me, I look at it now when I hold my boards, is I want to know, can you think on your feet? You have a soldier come into your office, they challenge you with this, this, and this. How are you going to react to that? Because I already know on the written test that you know how to do it, but how do you think? Do you think like a professional? Do you think about the second, third order effects of what you're telling that soldier? And so that, to me, has changed my perspective from when I was competing to now hosting my own boards.
Very good. And we got one. Andrew Sadler asks, I heard 101st that they are better than 82nd. Is there any truth to this?
Well, they might be better in some things, like fast roping out of a helicopter, but I heard a rumor that they were going to take the airborne tab off of them eventually. I'm not sure, because something about airborne. But I will tell you, before you cut me off, a couple things I want to talk about that Sergeant Smith and Sergeant Lord brought up is, you talked about the differences between virtual and in person, and I think that because we held virtual and in person boards, depending on whether you were at 82nd or at 18th Airborne Corps, and then FORSCOM and USASOC. I was involved in all those boards this year, and we did a variety of boards. I will tell you that with a virtual board, it's very easy to let down your guard and lose your bearing. Think about it. If you're sitting in your living room going to a board, it's very easy to move your hands, or you're distracted by a million different things. A car drove by, or the trash truck, whatever. So that is a very big challenge for people that are competing virtually. And whereas in person, you lose out when you do virtual versus in person is the uniform. The standing in front of a panel of people who are looking and measure. I mean, they're with their eyes, they're measuring. Does that look right? And there's a lot of pressure. There is a tremendous amount of pressure when you're in front of the panel in that uniform. So I think you lose out on that with the in person. And then the last thing that I will say is that as you move up in the competitions, it takes a different type of studying the higher you go. And I know that not everybody out there is listening is a career counselor or participating in this. So I will tell you that I've competed in a wide variety of boards, and I've received the feedback from other people. Oh, board babies, they get promoted, right? They're getting special treatment because they go to a board that they don't know how to do their job, but they're a board person. Well, I can assure you that if you go to these boards and compete, doesn't matter whether it's soldier of the quarter, NCO of the quarter, instructor of the quarter, whatever board that you participate in, you are making yourself better at what you are doing every day. You know, I sat on the soldier of the quarter board for the 82nd not too long ago, and I still remember from when I competed. They said, "Hey, what are the 5 key training features?" And I rattled them off, and people don't know that. People on the board that they're competing at the division level don't know that answer. So to me, you're expanding your knowledge and you're making yourself better, and it's something that you will take with you forever. Because if you go through the process and you study your butt off, you're going to take that and you're never going to forget those things.
Yeah, no, great advice, Sergeant Major, and thank you so much for taking the time to come on and give us a little history and give us your perspective, seeing that you've gone all the way through and now you're Sergeant Major, you know, doing great things over here in the 82nd. So thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate it.
Airborne.
All right. So next up we have
Hold on.
Yeah.
For somebody this special, they have to get the proper introduction. So I want to tell everybody out there, this man that you're about to see, Master Sergeant Eric Dethridge, is the most humble, professional, non-commissioned officer I've ever met. Right? He's pretty much my hero. Right? Sergeant Dethridge and me, we were both instructors at the same time. He was my sponsor, and when I came to the schoolhouse, I don't think he was really excited to have me as a sponsor. But we shared some times, and I will tell you that this man right here, the most humble person you will meet, but he's the most professional. And when you get this man a task, he knocks it out the park. By far, in my opinion, the greatest Secretary of the Army Career Counselor of the Year ever, right? That's my biased opinion, right? I'm just saying that. But that's my man right there. He is a professional, and now I'm going to go finish playing my PlayStation game. I'll be back at the end.
Well, I don't know that I can top that, Master Sergeant, but welcome to our show.
Thank you.
Give us a little bit of background about you. People are chiming in. You got fans all over the place, aren't? Give us a little background about you, and when were you winner of the Career Counselor of the Year Award?
First of all, I just want to thank you and the rest of the Army Reenlistment team for having me. I definitely appreciate the opportunity. A little bit about myself. I'm from the Bronx, New York. You know, that's where I joined the Army back in 2003. I became a career counselor at Fort Stewart. And then from there, I went to Germany with the 66th Military Intelligence Brigade. And then that's where I attended the Career Counselor of the Year board in 2014 with INSCOM. I was with the 66th Military Intelligence Brigade. And then after there, I went to the schoolhouse, or now the Recruiting and Retention College, and then Aberdeen Proving Ground, and now I just PCS. So I'm just now settling into 7th Signal Command at Fort Gordon.
Well, welcome. I hope they're treating you well over there. So why did you compete? Why did you want to compete? Were you forced to do it, or did you want to do it for yourself?
I honestly thought that I could go the rest of my career counselor career without having to go to a competition. So as Sergeant Major Whitney had explained, you know, even if you're watching this and you're not a career counselor, I can tell you, you know, as being an example of someone who gets nervous very easily, someone who really doesn't like to go to competitions, all it takes is someone to push you, to kind of give you that confidence. So that's basically what happened. I did not want to go to the Career Counselor of the Year competition. My command career counselor actually did a unique way of selecting the Career Counselor of the Year for INSCOM. He did a records review / a retention program review. So there was no board. So that's the thing. I did not go to a Career Counselor of the Year competition at the INSCOM level. I was selected by my command career counselor out of, it was 5 or 6 of us. And, the DA board was my first taste of the Career Counselor of the Year competition. So that was the first time I had appeared before a board and everything. And I'm someone who hadn't appeared before boards before. So it was nerve-wracking.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, congrats, because you clearly did well. So Joel's got a question. How do you teach younger counselors to think strategically? And do you feel it can be learned without having exposure at that level?
Oh, that's a great question. He's always asking good questions. I definitely tune into you guys' live streams, and he always brings it. I'll answer the second part first and say yes. And going back to the first part, it just takes sitting down and having a conversation with someone. That's what my sponsor, for the board, because you need to think strategically if you're going to compete at the highest levels. You cannot think in just your view of what's going on in your battalion or your brigade. You have to, think about things that are going to impact the Army. And so I just basically had someone sit down and kind of tell me the things that I'm doing at my level, they have an impact strategically or Army-wide. I couldn't see it at first, but it took, that person who was a Sergeant Major retired, Dean Drummond. He was a previous senior Army career counselor. And so that's what I would do, Sergeant Nunez. I just take that extra time to, sit down and show people what they're doing at their level. It has a much bigger impact.
Now, Sergeant Donahue wants to know, how long have you been in the Army?
He wants me to say 17. I know some people are gonna wonder why I said it that way, but that's a little joke me and him have. But yeah, so I just hit 17 years back in September.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
We got another from Fudgy Felicia Crooms. What are some of the challenges you have faced during your journey to Sergeant Major as a 79 Sierra, and what would you recommend young counselor to strive to accomplish the same?
So challenges that I faced, up to Master Sergeant as a 79 Sierra, it would definitely be getting out of my comfort zone. Like I had mentioned, I get nervous. I have some anxiety, which was funny because, being at the schoolhouse or the recruitment and retention college, you had to be in front of large groups. Even as a career counselor, you have to brief soldiers and brief command teams. And so that was a big challenge for myself, to have that confidence to where, I can tell myself, hey, I can do this. What's the worst that can happen? That's how I feel about the Career Counselor of the Year competition. If you're afraid of competing, or having anxiety, or you get nervous, at the end of the day, what's the worst that can happen? You're still going to go home to your family, to your loved ones. You're still going to have your life. It's okay. What was the second part? I seen it at the bottom and then it went away. Okay. And what would you recommend?
Young counselors strive to accomplish the same. So to get to your level, how would you recommend a young counselor to get there?
Okay, so for me, that's easy as just putting my best foot forward in everything that I do. And that's what I encourage young. If you're going to do something, if you're given a task, even if it's something that you don't want to do, someone's dependent on you at the end of the day. And I'm someone who, feels that if someone's dependent on me to do something, I need to put my best foot forward, so yeah, like Sergeant Sadler says, it takes hard work. It's not going to be easy to get to this level. It's not. Our field, the career counselor field, and I'm sure, for those who are not in the career counselor field, you may be in a very competitive, CMF, a very competitive MOS. You have to work hard, put your best foot forward. Even the little task, you need to go above and beyond, even for the little task.
Yeah, for sure.
Hype man like Donahue. Yeah.
Yeah.
when you got people in your corner, and that's the same for Donahue, that's mutual. But when you have people like that, that's rooting for you, that helps.
Yeah. So how did winning did winning help you at all in your career? And if so, how did it?
I would say it gave me some extra credibility. Sergeant Major Whitney, spoke about, people are then reaching out to you and, they hear about you. And, and I feel, of course, it can be a good or bad thing. People are either going to hear bad things or they're going to hear good things. And so winning the Career Council of the Year competition definitely helped me, get my name out there, because I am someone who's more reserved. I'm kind of like someone who likes to be in a bubble. I don't interact with a lot of people, other than my job, because I have to, and, I enjoy doing that. But for the most part, I stay to myself. But the Career Council of the Year definitely helped open doors. And so I echo that statement that Sergeant Major Whitney made. It definitely did that for me. Right after the competition, I was selected to instruct at the, recruiting and retention college. So I think that helped.
So I'm not going to screw up your name. So Miss Mitchell says, how do you motivate senior leaders to compete in the Senior Career Council of the Year? I know right now ForceCom is really the only one who does the senior competition. I know other commands may do it, and it's on an HQDA level, but I'm sure you've heard about it. So how would you motivate senior leaders to compete?
It's more along the lines of being that lifelong learner. You're going to learn something from these competitions. Are you going to be a senior leader that's done learning at the end of the day? I would look the senior leaders dead in their face and tell them that, like, what kind of senior leader do you want to be? What kind of example do you want to set, for your subordinate counselors? Get out there and compete, give it a try. At the end of the day, what's the worst that's going to happen? So sometimes all it takes is, some good talking to, some good real talking.
Yeah, for sure. Sergeant Major Chris asked, how does assignment diversity influence your future career progression?
Assignment diversity within, I wouldn't even just limit this to being a career counselor, within any field. You need to be diverse. Going back to what Sergeant Nunez said, right? How do you get career counselors, subordinates to think strategically? How can you really think strategically if you haven't, been in different units to see the different mission sets? So, when they're looking to move you up in the ranks, you need to have that diversity. You need to serve in multiple different units. And that also helps with the Career Council of the Year competition. And when you're competing, because you have these different views of being around different soldiers, being around, these soldiers in different MOSs with different missions, that can definitely help you, especially with those situational questions.
And I do have one question that we haven't asked yet. So we can only have 2 winners at the Secretary of the Army Career Council of the Year, but we've heard about the multiple levels that you have to go to, similar to NCO and, drill sergeant, things like that. So do you think winning at any level or even competing at any level is beneficial for a career counselor, as long as you're not like getting kicked out of the board?
Right. You don't, and then if that happens, you must have got kicked out for a reason. You'll learn, next, from that and do better next time. Yeah. Right. So yes, competing at any level, there's only, like you said, there's only one DA Career Council of the Year, but if you look at our leadership within our field, there are people who've competed and stopped at the lowest levels. Maybe they only won at their brigade level, but, they're still outstanding leaders. And they now have that in their toolkit, the fact that they competed, regardless of what level they made it to. So I encourage, and here at ArmyReenlistment.com, especially with you all, how you support it. You have a study guide, that's accessible to these career counselors. That's awesome. I encourage you, whatever level, go ahead and compete. If you make it to the brigade and you don't make it to the division or to your corps, whatever, it's okay. At least you did it.
Like I always say, what's the worst thing that can happen? You don't win.
Yeah.
You learn something at the end of the day, and you got exposure. So that's the biggest thing. Exposure is everything in any field. Exactly. Well, I don't know that we have any more questions, but I do want to thank you. I know the rest of the team's going to come on. Oh, we do have one. What's your favorite assignment so far?
Oh, my favorite assignment by far has been working at the Recruiting and Retention College. Great group of counselors. And yeah, and the Career Counselor of the Year competition, brought me to that assignment ultimately, I'm sure. And so I met great people there. So yeah, if you get the opportunity to apply to be an instructor, definitely take advantage. And that's in any MOS. I don't want to limit this to just, career counselors, but, take advantage if you can be an instructor, drill sergeant. But yeah, that answers my question.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Matt Sergeant. Appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
Your fanboy's back. I'm sure he's gonna have some hype things to say about you. I'm not really sure. I know he has some shout outs.
So what we've been doing when we've been ending the show lately is shouting out some career counselors. So Master Sergeant, is there any career counselor that you want to shout out that's caught your eye, that's been striving and working hard?
You know what? During this transition process, the person I'm replacing, he's retiring, and then I've been in processing. And if you've been in processing during COVID, it's interesting. And there's a career, one of my senior career counselors, Master Sergeant Damar Bowman, from 21st Signal Brigade. He's been holding down the fort for 7th Signal Command, and I'm not sure if he's tuned in, but I definitely want to shout him out. Master Sergeant Bowman from 21st Signal Brigade.
No, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for coming on. I know that it took a lot of prying for me to get you on. This is not really like you said, this is outside your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And we really appreciate you.
Thank you.
On.
Thank you. You guys are doing awesome. Y'all leveling up with the streams. The team's been holding things up. So yeah, I'm tuned in.
I appreciate it. All right. Before we leave for the night, we just want to bring up a couple of things. Next week, we will be having on Sergeant Major Sanders and Master Sergeant Mitchell from the Army's uniform team, right? So we have the Army's new uniform policy goes into effect on the 25th of February. On the 23rd, we have the official uniform team coming on. So they're gonna come on. They're gonna have the conversation. They're gonna break it down just like everybody else. All right. Before we go for the night, though, Sergeant Waterbury, who do you want to shout out?
Let's shout out. I'm SFAB. So I want to shout out all of our career counselors across the team right now. Everyone's killing it, doing what they're supposed to be doing. So I just want to shout out my SFAB team of career counselors.
Oh, okay. Sergeant Block did a great job tonight. You held it down.
Yeah.
Who do you want to shout out? I know somebody in 82nd you're going to shout out.
Of course I am. I'm going to shout out my team. Staff Sergeant Lease. I see I screwed up his own name. He's killing it over at STB Sustainment Brigade, and Sergeant Kuhn, who is my replacement actually over at 189th. She hit the ground running. We're still working on getting her systems up. She does have retain when it wants to work. But she's killing it, hitting the ground running. And then Sergeant Sawyer, she is going to school. Hopefully, she'll be going definitely in July, but we're trying to see if we can work something for April. She'll be killing it. And then Master Sergeant Frazier, who is going to be retiring here at the end of the year, but she's still doing great things. So thank you to my team. You guys are killing it, and keep up the hard work.
All right. So I've actually got paid by 18th Airborne Corps. They paid me to make a couple of shout outs. So I'm told to shout out Sergeant Wisner from the 101st. I saw a thing up there about 101st is better than 82nd. Neither one is really the best right now. Like let's keep it real. But Sergeant Wisner, she just graduated the career council course and she has already hit the 100 club. Right? There's 6 members of the 100 club in 18th Airborne Corps. Big shout out. 100% of my counselors are in that club, so that's really good. My guys are killing it. But Sergeant Wisner, she's doing real things. She's coming out the gate strong as a Rookie of the Year candidate. You guys did great. I want to shout out Mr. Quick. He ran away. He's in the background, but then he ran away. He turned his lights off. We couldn't do it without him, man. Couldn't do it without him. But hey, it's going forward. If you guys want to talk about any of it, you want to reach out to us and you want us to put anything out there, let us know. We put a post up there today, ask about different topics that we're going to have. Right now, we have a set schedule. But just remember, tonight we talked about Career Council of the Year, but it wasn't just about Career Council of the Year. Get outside your comfort zone, become that NCO, that soldier that separates yourself from your peers. I'm telling you, it will make a big difference. Sergeant Major Whitney said, do things like Instructor of the Year, Career Council of the Year, NCO of the Year, Drill Sergeant of the Year. I will tell you, it does make a big difference. I'm definitely not smart You guys all know this from every week of me tuning in, right? Definitely not the smartest man in the world. But so like career counselor of the year, not really my thing. But instructor of the year, hey, you put me in front of some students, I could do some things. I could teach a dummy how to do some stuff. Because hey, if you dumb, you can teach a dummy how to do it, right? So go out there and do what you got to do. Hey, but hey, thank y'all for all tuning in. We really appreciate it. We're just gonna keep going. Hopefully we get better. And if you got PS5, drop your PS5 tag so I can play you in Madden for some money. But other than that, I got nothing.
See you guys next week.
See you next week. Army uniform
have a good
team.
night. Oh.